We're legendary, indeed. Okay, so let's begin our 66th meeting, Reading Urantia Book with Heidi. We keep reading paper 114, Terrific Planetary Government. We're going to finishing it for section 7, the Reserve Corps of Destiny. And then we are going to read again the publication mandate and listen to a lecture by Caroline Kendall. 今天是66次与海地读书会，我们会完成114篇治天使行星政府第7部分天命预备团队，然后有时间的话我们会再读这个出版指令，就是 Caroline Kendall 在那个 U 馆上的一段讲话，我们再读一遍，因为上一次读的时候录音没有录好，所以呢这次我们读希望能够录下来。好的 ，OK。
Do you remember which paragraph we were at?
我们上回第七节读到哪里了？
Did we read the 12? Did we read the 12 groups of angels? The home seraphim, the angels of industry. I remember, I don't think we read the angels of diversion. Oh no, we did. We read the angels of superhuman ministry, the angels of the angels.
12 not yet. 12 not yet.
读到哪儿了
？12是还没有读，12还没。
12没读。Okay, yeah. Anne said we haven't started 7:12 yet.
What about 11 then?
11, I seem to have a weak impression that we have read it.
Yeah, we read this at the 12 groups, I know, because I remember talking about the 12th, but I'm just trying to think if we read after that, which paragraph. None of these direct control over the remains of their assignment. They cannot fully control the forms of action, but they can. Maybe you should pause with the recording for on, right? You turned it off? Yeah, okay. So we're in the end of section of paper 114, section the Reserve Corps of Destiny, section 7. We're finishing it up we're today, and then maybe we should do the Caroline Kendall thing after we do the Reserve Corps before we do the next section, so that we you know what I mean, so that we have enough time.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we'll see, because even we start from 7.10, we still have 17 paragraph. We still have 7 paragraphs to go.
Yeah. And then
we can go over that publication mandate. Okay.
Yeah, and then paper 115 is the supreme being. So we were going to read. I think we were going to read something from the beginning of the book before we read the supreme being. Remember?
Yes, yeah, that's our plan.
Okay. So starting with the paragraph that begins, the reservists unconsciously act as conservators, so that the people listening to the recording can know where we are. That's well, my book doesn't even have the paragraph numbers, but you're oh well, that's, yeah, you have to translate. Okay, so the reservists unconsciously act as conservators of essential planetary information. Many times upon the death of a reservist, a transfer of certain vital data from the mind of the dying reservist to a younger successor is made by a liaison of the two thought adjusters. The adjusters undoubtedly function in many other ways unknown to us in connection with these reserve corps. On Urantia, the reserve corps of destiny, though having no permanent head, does have its own permanent councils, which constitute its governing organization. These embrace the Judiciary Council, the Historicity Council, the Council on Political Sovereignty, and many others. From time to time, in accordance with the core of organization, titular, mortal, heads of the whole Reserve Corps have been commissioned by these permanent councils for specific function. I'm going to read that again. From time to time, in accordance with the core organization, titular, mortal heads of the whole Reserve Corps have been commissioned by these permanent councils for a specific function. Okay. The tenure of such reservist chiefs is usually a matter of a few hours duration, being limited to the accomplishment of some specific task at hand. Then I'll read one more. The Urantia Reserve Corps had its largest membership in the days of the Adamites and Andites, steadily declining with the dilution of the violet blood and reaching its low point around the time of Pentecost, since which time Reserve Corps membership has steadily increased. Okay.
Anne 你来读，从第10段。
好，来10。后备队员在不知不觉中充当了行星重要信息的保存者。很多时候，当一名后备队员死亡时，会通过2名思想调整者的联络，将某些重要数据从死亡的后备队员心智中传给一位年轻继任者。毫无疑问，调整者还以许多其他我们不知道的方式，在这些后备队方面发挥着作用。11. 在伊朗下，天命后备团队虽然没有永久的首领，但有自己的常设理事会。这些理事会构成了天命后备团队的管理员组织。这些理事会包括司法委员会、历史委员会、政治主权委员会等。根据后备队的组织结构，这些常设理事会不时任命全部后备队的名誉凡人首领们履行特定职能。这些后备队负责人的任期通常只有几个小时，仅限于完成手头的某些具体任务。OK。
还有一段。
Oh, okay.
No, haven't. The third paragraph I haven't read yet.
来，这个是12。在亚当主人和安东主人的时代，伊朗社后备队的成员最多，随着紫色血脉的稀释而逐渐减少，在圣灵降临节前后达到最低点。从那时起，后备队的成员稳步增加。OK。
Okay. So these are fascinating paragraphs. Okay, so the first one, the reservists unconsciously act as conservators of essential planetary information. So it's telling us that the Reserve Corps, well, I mean, it's called the Reserve Corps, so they are in the business of reserving things. So they're doing they're doing some of the work that the midwayers also do. The midwayers are always, remember, they're the historians of the planet because they don't die. The same midwayers are still alive from the times of Caligastia. They're the only permanent residents on our planet, the midwayers.
这个后备队员哈，它这个保这个词也是一个就是reserve 就保存保留啊，保留就是它那这7.10的第一句话说后备队员不知不觉充当了行星重要信息的保存者。那么他海蒂又提到，那么中道者其实也是有这样的功能，因为他们从那个远古就是一直他们是地球的永久居民呢，他们保存记录这个地球的历史。
So the Reserve Corps, we know that the Reserve Corps act in emergencies, and they're like they're also like a preserve corps. They're preserving essential human information in case it gets lost in a time of darkness. But it sounds like their role in reserving history, as I said, is doubling what the midwayers also do. So it's like a human core that passes down essential history that would otherwise be lost.
那么就是这些后备队员在紧急的情形紧急的事件当中负责救急，他们也负责保存人类的历史啊信息啊，以免在黑暗年代就是丢失。他们在历史当中的角色就是相当于他们是人类当中，就是把必要的重要的信息来传递下来，以免这些的信息丧失。
Okay, wait, I'm just trying to do something with my screen here. Okay, so it sounds like we know that okay, so anyway, I'll just translate. So I mean, I'll just explain this paragraph. So it says many times upon the death of a reservist, a transfer of certain vital data from the mind of the dying reservist to a younger successor is made by a liaison of the two thought adjusters. And the adjusters undoubtedly function in many other ways unknown to us. So that's really interesting. So in other words, the reservists, the people in the Reserve Corps trained in their sleep by angels, by their thought adjusters, and others. So when one dies, when a thought adjuster dies, all that training and all that knowledge dies with them. So they transfer a lot of that information. Their thought adjusters work together to transfer that knowledge and information into a new person, another person in the Reserve Corps. It's like a mind meld. Very interesting.
然后呢，那个这7.10的后一段又叙述，就是当一个后备队员死亡的时候呢，又通过思想调整者2个思想调整者的联络，他们可以把那个知识从那个死亡那个后备队员的心识当中传给一个年轻的继任者，就是这样的话呢，知识啊技能啊他们因为这些的后备队员在睡梦当中都受过训练嘛，那这样的话的保证他在睡梦当中获得的知识啊经验和技巧技术啊没有失去，因为都传给一个年轻继任者了。
Okay, so it's basically saying that our minds are like computers and they can actually transfer data from one mind to another.
相当于就是说，相当于我们的心识，相当于就像电脑一样，那么这个信息 是可以从一个转到另外一个的。
I mean, but it's not saying anyone can do it. The thought adjusters do it, and thought adjusters are fragments of God, so they can pretty much do they can do amazing things.
那不是说任何人都可以这样做，只是思想调整者才能够做到。那么思想调整者是神的片段。
So it says that that on our planet, the reserve corps does not have it can't have a permanent head because it's made up of humans, and humans die after a certain period of time. So it says although it doesn't have a permanent head, a leader, it does have permanent councils, which constitute its governing organization. So the Reserve Corps is like a little. I mean, it's like a military corps or any other unit with actual governing organization. With an actual governing organization.
然后在7.11呢，又讲到这个，虽然天命会会团队没有永久的首领，但有自己的常设理事会。这个理事会呢，就构成了这个天命会会团队的管理组织。
So it looks like these different groups are the reservists in you know, when you become a Reserve Corps member, it looks like you're probably assigned to be part of a certain group within the Reserve Corps. So there's a judicial group. It says here, a judiciary council, the historicity council, the council on political sovereignty. So we see they are definitely involved in politics and the legal system and historical, probably historical truth, because our history is so corrupted. They're probably trying to ensure that some true history remains on the planet. It doesn't get completely lost. But that's interesting. Go ahead.
对，就这样的一个行政单位它就是主要也是有很多的委员会呢，是不同的方面，像司法委员会、历史委员会政治主权委员会，那么管不同的方面。比如说，那这个历史委员会有可能就是用来保存这个地球的历史，因为我们教的历史有可能在很大程度上被扭曲的，那么这个历史委员会有可能就是负责要保证真实的历史还被记录保存记下来。
So basically they're telling us that it's loosely, well, it doesn't say loosely, but that it's organized into these councils and there's no real leader. But from time to time, so occasionally, there is a leader is assigned to the whole Reserve Corps. And that would be, it seems to me that would be in an emergency situation where you need a leader. And amazingly, he or she is only acts as a leader for usually the tenure of such reservist chiefs is usually a matter of a few hours duration, being limited to the accomplishment of some specific task at hand. So say in an emergency, you need a leader. Usually it's only for a few hours. I mean, that's amazing. Not even for a few days, but a few hours. So that would probably be in an extreme, it must be an extreme crisis where there's a lot of lives and lives are at risk, or incredibly important decisions are being made, or something to that effect.
对，那么他是说这个常设理事会 这个后备队的负责人的任期通常只有几个小时。那么就是我们看到这个后备队负责人的任命往往是用来处理一些极端的危机，生命攸关的，比如说这种极端的危机来设立的，所以他们的任期就几个小时，危机结束了，然后这个任期也就结束了。
So Reserve Corps, they're very much involved in planetary emergencies and extreme situations, because a lot of times they don't even, they train their whole lives, but they're not even called into service unless there's an emergency or an extreme situation.
对，所以呢，我们看到天命预备团队呢，主要是用来应付行星危机的。那么有可能他们受过培训的医生都不一定用得着他们被培训的知识只有在危机发生的时候，他们才会被应召来提供服务。
It doesn't tell us when they choose a reservist, if they choose them when they're children or when they're in their early 20s, or maybe not until they're in their 40s or 50s or 60s and are very wise. We don't know. It doesn't tell us how old people are when they're mustered into the Reserve Corps.
那这个人下之书也没有教导说明说是这个人他都是哪个年龄就被呼召到这个后备天命预备军团是20岁30岁40岁都不知道。
But they tell us there's all these, they only give us an example of the judicial, political, and historical councils, but they say, and there's many more. So probably in a planetary emergency where so much is at stake, they probably need all of the groups or many of them to get involved in this one emergency situation. And so they appoint a chief, and that chief manages all the groups, how all these different groups can help with this one emergency. Or maybe he just chooses one group to help. Maybe he doesn't need a lot of people, but we don't know. But this chief will act for a few hours until influencing the outcome, helping to change the fate of our planet.
对，那在行星危机的时候，有可能就是包含很多方面都需要干预，那么它就是所有的这个管理组织，各个部门可能都需要参与到这种行星危机的情况当中。那么这个首领呢，他就要这样就是管理调动各个部门。那也有可能在这个危机当中，只需要一个部门来进行参与，来影响结果，来决定影响这个行星的命运，都不知道。
Many people think it was, including President Trump himself, many people think it was an act of God that he survived both, because now there have been both assassination attempts, because both should have killed him. Both times the rifle was pointed right at him, and no one was doing anything. Had the first shot missed by less than half an inch, had he not moved his head at that moment, he'd be dead.
所以你比如说那个川普总统就是遭遇2次暗杀嘛，都没有成功，他都是有惊无险。那么实际上第一次被暗杀，那么他就是 只是就是差半个英寸的距离。那么他如果那头当时没有动，那么就是肯定会把他打死。但是他那时候大概头就是动了一下，那么就差那半英寸，他就躲过了致命的这个子弹。
And the second one, there was a rifle, a nozzle of a rifle pointing out through these bushes aimed right at him. Now, if you think of all the bushes around the golf course, heavy shrubbery, this security Secret Service guy had to see a tiny rifle head sticking out of through a few leaves of one bush. He had to have very good eyesight to see that.
那么第二次呢，就是高尔夫球场附近，它不是有很多茂密的树和这个灌木丛嘛？那个来福枪就是从那灌木丛里边伸出来这么一个黑洞洞的枪口，但是它被这些密集的灌木丛所掩盖。那么这些的保安人员呢，是需要非常好的视力敏锐的视力警觉，才能够发现那么这个灌木丛当中伸出来一个枪口。
So rifles can shoot quite a distance. So think of it. It's not just a few feet away. It's a long, it might be 100, I don't even know, 100 feet, 200 feet, 300 feet, 400 feet. I don't know how long it is, but it's a distance. So you're looking across a whole yard, a lawn, and then there's a whole lot of bushes, and then you're spotting one muzzle of one rifle sticking through one bush. And he saw it before the shot was fired.
对，那么就是这个来福枪其实是可以从很远的地方就可以很准的瞄准目标的。那么这个现场的就是几个英尺远了，那就是实际上是很危险的。但是这个到时候也是被成功的避免了。
So let's take the first one. He turned his head to look at a graphic sign that was put up like an image on a screen, but ordinarily he always, not in his rallies, he doesn't always use that image, only sometimes. Whenever he uses it, it's always at the end of the speech. And it's never on his right, it's always on his left. So this time, suddenly he talks about in the very beginning of the speech. So he's got someone in the back listening to him and saying, and they hear him mention that, so they quickly put it up on the screen. So it's unusual. Usually he doesn't mention it till the end of his speech. He mentions it in the beginning. This is the only time he's ever done that. Then they always put the screen on his left, but this time for some reason they put the screen on his right. So it was in a place where in order to look at the screen, he had to turn his head to the right, which he never does because the screen is always on the left. So all these strange things happened that saved his life.
就以第一次暗杀事件为例，那么他那时候他是刚刚演讲开始哈，他是扭头看屏幕上的画面，然后一般情况下他在这样的演讲集会当中，他是会在演讲快结束的时候才会就是说引述就是一些需要看屏幕的画面。那么这一次呢，他是在演讲开始的时候就引述，然后呢屏幕呢是放在他的右边，通常屏幕是在他的左边，他大概不用扭头看，而这一次呢这个屏幕放在他的右边，他需要扭头 才能看。所以这么一些的奇异的巧合，然后就相当于救了他一命。
So whether you like him or not, regardless of what you think of him, there is no doubt at all that if whether or not Trump gets elected in 1 month from now, that will change the course of history of America. No question about that. And the course of the history of America at this time on this planet changes the history of the world.
所以没有疑问的一点是，这个事件实际上改变了美国的整个的美国的历史，也改变了人类的历史。
Changes it or certainly affects it.
或者影响这个历程。
So this is, to me, I'm guessing, but I would say this is exactly the type of situation where the Reserve Corps would get involved for a few minutes, few hours. Absolutely. Because it'll change the history of the world. And they know what's happening. They see that he's about to get shot. They absolutely know exactly what's going on. So they see it, so they set things up in such a way that he doesn't get shot. To me, it was an act of God, because too many things happened that shouldn't have happened. He should have been shot, but he wasn't.
那么这就是一个很典型的一个情势，一个情景，就是持续几分钟啊，几个小时啊，然后相当于就是天使啊、上天啊、灵界会看到将要发生什么，然后就做出的反应和干预。那么这个是神的作为。
So that might be an example.
这就是一个例子吧。
Let's see. Another example might be if someone who's going to have a very is going now you have to realize someone may have an impact on the world that we don't know about, because they may save the life of someone who never becomes famous in any way, but they have a child who becomes famous, or they have such a strong influence on their niece or nephew, and that person changes. So the celestial beings know all this. So they know who's important in terms of the history of, we're all important in the eyes of God, but they know who's important. They're concerned with the history and the preservation of this planet. So they might save like people, you hear of strange people whose lives are saved and you don't know why, a miraculous situation where they're the only one who survives a plane crash, this or that. We don't know why, but probably that person never becomes famous, but they know they were saved for some reason. But we don't know, but the celestials know that they saved that life for a reason, because somehow that person is probably going to influence someone else who influences someone else who changes the world, or it's, you know what I'm saying.
对，那么这个天命预备团队它对这个行星施加影响，不见得是直接对那个一个著名的人物直接施加影响，也有可能会对这个著名人物的他有可能就是这个人他施加影响对这个人的什么就是亲戚啊，就是像那些侄子啊、侄女啊这些施加影响，这些的侄子侄女，他就是后来成为改变历史的人物啊，然后对这个行星的这个安全，做出重大的贡献。所以在很多 奇迹的场景，那么他把某个人就是救了他的命，那么一定是有原因的。那么这个连环的这个因果的链条，它就是由这个人然后才往下传，就是保持这条链儿不断。所以那些天命预备团队，他不见得在历史当中有名，因为他救的不见得是直接对历史产生影响的人。
So many people, you know, I'm always watching these near-death experience people. Many of them, they were dead and they came back to life, and they absolutely believe that it was God interfering and saving their life, celestial intervention, etc. Well, they spend the rest of their lives believing in God, spreading the word of God, changing other people's lives. So why is it that so many people who are saved spend the rest of their life spreading the word of God? Well, no coincidence. That's why they were saved, because the celestials knew if we save this one, they're going to spend the rest of their life changing and affecting other people, spreading the word of God. They know that.
在很多的濒死经验当中，很多人承认都是有神在影响，是在影响。那么他们往往从那次经验之后呢，他们就改变了他们的生活轨迹，然后广说神宣扬神的这个那个他们在濒死体验当中体验的神的信息啊，神的真理改变其他人的命运。那么有可能在这次濒死体验当中，就是上天他是知道这些人他会从这个经验当中会做出这样的改变，然后来传播神的信息，那么这样才实施这种干预。
I'm not saying that that I think the Reserve Corps of Destiny is involved in saving different people's lives. Absolutely not. I think God, your thought adjuster, your angel, they get involved in that, in saving your life. But when it comes to someone who can have such a strong and immediate impact on the whole world and the whole country, then like Trump or like a million people through history, then I think they do get involved. Then my guess is that that's when they get involved.
当然就是他也承认，就是像天使啊、思想调整者啊，他肯定在危机时刻他也是参与的，对个人的那个。但是就是说那个如果这个人他对整个的星球啊、历史那个世界啊会产生重大影响的，那么天命预备团队肯定是会也参与进来。
Now this is very interesting. It says the Urantia Reserve Corps had its largest membership in the days of the Adamites and Andites, steadily declining with the dilution of the violet blood and reaching its low point around the time of Pentecost, since which time Reserve Corps membership has steadily increased. So that's very interesting. So during the time of the Adamites and Andites, the Adamites were the descendants of Adam and Eve. So that they were a different race, a celestial race, not non-humans, right? They were the purple people. Okay, we had the red, the yellow, and the blue, but they were a purple race. And so they're saying the Reserve Corps had its largest membership back in those days. So they were really working hard to enhance and preserve the benefit of the purple race that on our planet. So then their membership has declined since those days. So they're basically saying there was less good to preserve I think that's what it's saying. That because in another way you would think the less good there is on our planet, the bigger the reserve corps would have to be. They'd have to work harder. But it doesn't work. They're saying just the opposite. They're saying the more good there is to preserve, the larger the reserve corps is, the more they have to work. The less there is to preserve, then the smaller the reserve corps is, and the less work they do. That's what it's saying.
那么这一段呢，对，72哈，这个亚当族呢就是亚当夏娃的后裔，那么他们就属于神族了。那他们是紫色人种啊，紫色人种相当于是神族。那么，就是这个后备队呢，它就是需要来加强和保存这个神族这个基因呢，它这个族系的这个好处。那么随着这个紫色血脉的稀释逐渐减少，那么就是人这个基因种性就慢慢的越来越不好，越来越低下了之后呢，就没有多少好东西需要保留嘛，所以那个后备团队就越来越少。那就相当于这个是说，如果有更多的好东西需要保留呢，那么就需要更多的后备团队，这个团队就要越大来保留这些好东西。
So many of us, I would say millions of people, believe that right now we're experiencing a spiritual renaissance, an awakening. Now, what this paragraph tells us is that, and the Urantia book says that during the time of the writing, we had reached the peak of the material age. Now, if you've reached the peak of the material age, that can only mean that you're entering a less material age. A less material age would be a more spiritual age. So we know from that the Urantia book was written at the dawn of the beginning. The dawn is the beginning of the spiritual age of this planet.
那么，现在就是大家都公认啊，现在经历一个灵性的文艺复兴，大觉醒时代。那么在写这本书的时候，作者说这个现在地球正在经历这个物质化年代的顶峰，那么相当于从那以后呢，慢慢的物质化就慢慢的褪色，就是更多的灵性的成分来增加进来，那么是相当于是灵性时代的一个黎明。
But what this paragraph tells us is the actual beginning of the spiritual age was the fourth revelation, the life of Jesus, because the Urantia book is the fifth revelation. So they're saying that when Jesus left the planet for good and poured out the spirit of truth, that's what they call Pentecost, the pouring out of the spirit of truth on mankind on this planet, and the spirit of truth has been here ever since. That, they're saying, was the actual beginning of the spiritual age, because it's saying that we reached our low point around the time of Pentecost, since which time Reserve Corps membership has steadily increased. So that when the spirit of truth was poured out on our planet, that's when the Reserve Corps started slowly increasing and working more and more. which they had decreased since so when Adam and Eve left and there were this higher, more spiritual race on the planet, they were working their hardest, the core was their biggest, then it declined until for 200,000 years, until the spirit of truth was poured out. Then it's been slowly increasing until now the Urantia book is published, and now we're entering the spiritual age. So they're going full force now.
那么但是这一段呢，他又告诉我们，实际上真正的这个灵性的复苏，是在耶稣离开星球播撒真理之灵到这个星球上，到凡人身上，然后就开始发生的。因为从那以后呢，后备队的成员稳步增加，所以就是说更多的灵性的东西正在注入到这个星球上，是带来这个灵性的复苏的。那么亚当和夏娃他们相当于这个紫色血脉的稀释，那么在过去20万年它是慢慢的减少的，这灵性的部分。那么现在又随着真理之灵的播撒，就是慢慢的又再回来带领我们进入这个灵性的时代，就是从上一次第4次这个行星启示的时代开始，就慢慢的已经在过渡到灵性时代。
Okay, I'm going to read the next 3 paragraphs. This is in parentheses. The cosmic reserve core of universe conscious citizens on Urantia now numbers over 1,000 mortals whose insight of cosmic citizenship far transcends the sphere of their terrestrial abode, but I'm forbidden to reveal the real nature of the function of this unique group of living human beings. And I'll read 2 more. Urantia mortals should not allow the comparative spiritual isolation of their world from certain of the local universe circuits to produce a feeling of cosmic desertion or planetary orphanage. There is operative on the planet a very definite and effective superhuman supervision of world affairs and human destinies. But it is true that you can have at best only a meager idea of an ideal planetary government. Since the early times of the planetary prince, Urantia has suffered from the miscarriage of the divine plan of world growth and racial development. The loyal inhabited worlds of Satania are now governed as is Urantia. Nevertheless, compared with the other isolated worlds, your planetary governments have not been so inferior. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I read that wrong. The loyal inhabited worlds of Satania are not governed as is Urantia. Nevertheless, compared with the other isolated worlds, your planetary governments have not been so inferior. Only 1 or 2 worlds may be said to be worse.
Where are you? Have you read through 15? Well,
let me just finish this sentence. Only 1 or 2 worlds may be said to be worse, and a few may be slightly better, but the majority are on a plane of equality with you. Okay, I'm in
okay, yeah, 3 paragraphs.
But it is true. Number 11114715. But it is true that one I just read.
Okay, 13、14、15。
再来13，玉兰沙上具有宇宙意识的公民的宇宙后备队 现在有1000多名凡人，他们对宇宙公民身份的洞察力远远超越了他们在地球上居住的范围，但我被禁止透露这个独特见识人类群体的作用的真正性质。14. 玉兰沙凡人不应该让他们的世界在灵性上相对孤立于某些地方宇宙回路，从而产生一种宇宙遗弃或行星孤儿的感觉。在这个星球上，对世界事物和人类天命有着非常明确而有效的超人监督。15. 但确实，你们对理想的行星政府最多只能有一点很粗浅的想法。从行星王子的早期时代开始，伊朗沙就饱受世界成长和种族发展的神圣计划的流产之苦。在萨达尼亚中，忠诚的有人居住世界不是像管理伊朗沙那样管理的。然而，与其他隔离世界相比，你们的行星政府并不逊色。可以说，只有1-2个世界比之糟糕，少数几个世界可能稍好一点，但大多数都与你们处于同等水平。OK，
Okay. So cosmic of universes now. Hold on, I am ready to review. So it says. So he says. There's more than 1,000 people right now in the Reserve Corps. And these people, he says they're cosmic Reserve Corps, universe conscious citizens. He calls the Reserve Corps people universe conscious citizens. So they're people who have universe their consciousness is way bigger than ours. They're conscious of universe realities. It's these people, but he says, I am forbidden to reveal the real nature of the function of this unique group. So he's saying that they're just not allowed to tell us too much about how they actually function.
那么现在就是我们知道，就是这一段括号里边这一段73哈，宇宙预备队，有1000多名凡人啊，他们这个是具有宇宙意识。那么，但是呢，这个作者被禁止不要透露这一个群体的他在地球上的作用。其实是我觉得是一个对他们一个保护。因为如果 so it's a kind of protection for this mortal being.
Well,
not to disclose.
Well, throughout the whole book, these authors are always saying, we're not allowed, I would tell you more, I'm not allowed to tell you more about this. I'm not allowed to tell you more. This is all I can say about this. Even the book itself is limited to certain subjects. There's whole subjects they're not even allowed to address in the book. So the whole thing is very, I would say, not censored, but they only have permission to tell us certain things.
对，这个地方就是玉兰下之书，很多地方都有类似的这样的一种说明，就是我不被允许透露什么什么，就是所以就是写这本书，它就是透露给我们的信息也是有限的，有一些的是大概不到时候啊，还是就是怎么样，它是不被允许说太多的。
I mean, I would love to know more about the Reserve Corps personally.
对，当然人都是好奇嘛，就想知道更多。
Like a list of who's in it.
啊，人就好奇到底谁在这个名单上面。
But most of the people in it, they don't even know they're in it.
那这些人，有些人他在这个名单当中，但他也不一定意识到自己在这个名单当中。
And then they're giving us a nice word of encouragement. They're saying that even though we're an isolated planet because of the rebellion, they're saying, don't worry, don't feel like you've been deserted or that you're an orphan with no parents, because even though you're cut off from certain of the local universe circuits, there is operative on the planet a very definite and effective superhuman supervision of world affairs and human. So they're saying not only do we have a celestial government here, but they're saying it's very effective. It's working very well. So we don't have to be that concerned that we're cut off from the universe circuits, because we wouldn't know well, maybe we would know if we had a planetary Adam and Eve and a prince, and maybe we would know about them and be able to get messages. But anyway, they're saying, don't worry, your celestial government's working very well here on this planet.
在呢7:15这一段呢，就是告诉我们，虽然我们被从一些的地方宇宙的回路当中切断了，但是我们有很有效的超人冥界政府，然后来实施管理，也没有差到哪里去。
And so then they tell us that, which is very interesting, that okay, we don't have an ideal planetary government. Because of the rebellion and our isolation, we are not governed the way that loyal worlds are governed. Their planetary governments are far superior to ours. So they're saying, yeah, you don't have an ideal planetary government because, since the rebellion. But they're saying, of all the isolated worlds, only a few are worse than ours. So we're in the bottom tier, but they're saying most of them are really not much better. A few are slightly better, but the majority are on a plane of equality. So they're saying that for an isolated world, considering that our prince rebelled and Adam and Eve rebelled, they're saying we're not doing so bad. We're pretty much like most of the other isolated planets, our government. It's not ideal, but it could be worse.
当然就是理想的这个行星政府呢，就是管理肯定就是没有这些的背叛啊、违约啊，那肯定比我们现在的要更理想。所以我们实际上想不到，就是理想型政府的统治应该是什么样子的。但是呢，针对于那个隔离世界哈，由于这个背叛啊、违约啊而隔离的世界来讲，我们的行星政府也没有那么很差，这就是平均水平吧。
Do you have the Carolyn Kendall video?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, okay. So good, because I can't find mine. I have it, but I can't find it right now. All right. So I'll read I'm going to read the last 2 paragraphs of this section. Okay. No one in the local universe seems to know when the unsettled status of the planetary administration will terminate. The Nebanon Melchizedeks are inclined to the opinion that little change will occur in the planetary government and administration until Michael's second personal arrival on Urantia. Undoubtedly at this time, if not before, sweeping changes will be effected in planetary management. But as to the nature of such modifications of world administration, no one seems to be able to conjecture. There is no precedent for such an episode in all the history of the inhabited worlds of the universe of Nebadon. Among the many things difficult to understand concerning the future government of Urantia, a prominent one is the location on the planet of a circuit and divisional headquarters of the archangels. Your isolated world is not forgotten in the councils of the universe. Urantia is not a cosmic orphan stigmatized by sin and shut away from divine watch care by rebellion. From Uversa to Salvington and on down to Jerusalem, even in Havona and on Paradise, they all know we are here. And you mortals now dwelling on Urantia are just as lovingly cherished and just as faithfully watched over as if the sphere had never been betrayed by a faithless planetary prince, even more so. It is eternally true. The Father himself loves you.
OK， 最后2段
16，地方宇宙中似乎没有人知道行星管理的不稳定状态何时会结束。内巴顿莫基萨德们倾向于认为，在迈克尔第2次亲临伊朗沙之前，行星政府和管理不会发生什么变化。毫无疑问，届时如果不是在此之前，行星管理将发生翻天覆地的变化。但至于这种世界管理变革的性质，似乎没有人能够推测。在那巴顿宇宙中有人居住，世界的历史上还没有出现过这样的先例。关于未来的伊朗沙政府，有许多难以理解的事情，其中最突出的就是大天使的回路和分区总部在这个行星上的位置。17，在宇宙之域中，并没有遗忘你们的被隔离世界。月朗沙并不是一个为罪恶蒙羞的宇宙孤儿，也没有因为叛乱而远离神的眷顾。从尤沃萨到萨尔文顿，再到耶路圣母，甚至在哈瓦那和天堂，他们都知道我们在这里。而你们这些居住在伊朗沙的凡人，也同样受到深情的爱护和忠实的看顾，就像这个星球从未被一个不忠的行星王子背叛过一样，甚至有过之而不及。天父爱你们，这是永远不变的真理。All right， 好了。
Okay, thank you. So, well, this does, Carolyn Kendall is going to have the Carolyn Kendall video we're about to see is going to help explain what's going on in our planetary government right now. But now they're talking about the planetary government right now on Urantia. They're saying that it's in a strange kind of holding pattern. It's not really settled because Jesus Christ is our planetary prince, but he doesn't operate as the prince. So he has vicegerents and different people, Melchizedek's, different people acting as prince. So they don't know how long this is going to happen. It's kind of in a temporary status. We don't have like a permanent government structure here. We have kind of temporary it's sort of like you could say like a wartime administration, like, you know, where there is a government put in place to handle this time, but this isn't how it's going to eventually it will be completely different, but nobody knows how it's going to be, because this is the only planet in the entire universe of Nebadon that had the sovereign of the universe live on this planet as a man. So it changes everything. So everything about this planet and it's also a rebellion planet. So everything about our planet is managed differently, and that's what they're saying. But then they're also saying that the fact that the Archangel circuit is on our planet also has a big influence, but they're not telling us how. But I'm not even, they don't even know how. They're just saying one of the many difficult things to understand concerning the future government of Urantia is that it is the location of a planet, of a circuit and divisional headquarters of the archangels. Now, we have no idea. I mean, maybe someone does. I certainly don't. What that even means. Why is it so important that there's an archangel's circuit here? Why does that change our planet and our government? I don't know, but they're always mentioning it, so it is significant.
就是现在月染下的这个，超人那个行政府，它就相当于一个暂时政府，它只是一个临时的。那么隔离结束才会有正式的，那迈克尔亲临月染下的时候才有正式的行星政府。并且这个未来的政府是什么样子，大概很难理解。然后他就是又提到这个月亮上又提到这个关于大天使的回路啊，分区总部在这个行星上的位置，那就说明这个是对将来的月亮下政府是非常有影响的。那为什么他们是有这么重大的影响，他也不知道。
It could be just as simple as archangels are very high angels, very evolved celestial beings, and we have lots of them here, lots of them, because this is a divisional headquarters of archangels on our planet. So of all the planet, I don't know how many, we've talked about this, I don't know how many headquarters, if they just have one headquarters in the universe or many different headquarters. They say divisional headquarters, so that makes me think it's not there's not just one headquarters for the, or they call it a circuit and divisional headquarters. So it makes me think there's more than one headquarters for archangels in the universe. There's divisional headquarters. So there's, you know, maybe there's 10, maybe there's 20, maybe there's 300, 500, who knows? But the fact is, we have a divisional headquarters of archangels on our planet. They're coming and going. They're here all the time. They're higher beings, and that has some very significant effect on our planet.
对，那个猜想，那么大天使的回路啊，分区总部啊，在这个行星上是不是就是有很多的大天使，级别很高的这灵界存有，就是经常在这儿来来去去哈。那么这个他不知道我们这个地方宇宙有多少个这样的分区总部，它既然是分区总部，那么就是肯定不止一个，有10个、20个还是500个，在整个宇宙当中，他也不知道。
They're definitely, if nothing else, we know that it definitely creates a closer relationship with other areas of our universe, because they're coming and going constantly. from other spheres, other planets, other realms, other constellations, other planetary systems. So we're that creates a kind of connection to the rest of the universe that most planets don't have.
那么因为大天使经常来来去去呢，那么一定是给我们使我们跟那宇宙的其他部分就是有一个更密切的联系。
So it's this last paragraph is very beautiful. Again, it's telling us that just because we're rebellion, don't think we're orphans. Don't think we're cut off from the rest of the universe. Not at all. But then they're saying, and don't think that we're shut off from divine watch care. So they're looking, the celestial beings in our universe are looking after our planet just as much, if not more, than they're looking after every other planet. We don't have to feel like, okay, we're isolated by rebellion from this certain circuits, but that doesn't mean we're isolated. We don't have the same watch care and they're protecting and taking care of us just as much as any other planet.
这最后一段呢，就是相当于给我们的一个安慰呢，就是虽然我们被一些从宇宙回路当中被隔离，但是呢，我们并不是一个为罪恶蒙羞的宇宙孤儿，也我们一样有神的眷顾。那么从地方宇宙
So then it says, from Uversa. Now Uversa is the capital of the whole super universe of Orvantan. There's only 7 super universes in the entire grand universe. So they're saying, even in the capital of the super universe, they know we're here. We're not cut off. We're not so cut off that we're not known. They know about us. Then they're saying to Salvington, that's the capital of Nebadon, our universe, the universe that Jesus Christ created and rules. So they're saying in Salvington, they definitely know of us because Jesus lived here, right? And he's the prince. They're on down to Jerusalem. That's the capital of the local system, our local system, which is about 1,000 planets. They know about us. Of course they do. And then they're saying, even in Havona and on Paradise, that's the center of the whole grand universe. Havona is the billion worlds surrounding the central universe. They're saying, even they know we are here.
那尤尔萨呢，是我们这个7个超级宇宙当中的一个，我们属于第7个嘛，超级宇宙它这个的首府尤尔萨。那么萨尔文顿呢是内巴顿，我们的地方宇宙的首府。那就是耶路撒冷是我们的地方系统的首府。就是说这不管是就这几个级别的都甚至到去哈瓦那就是中央宇宙是大宇宙的中心嘛，那都相当于我们都是被知道在这里的。
So they're saying not only are we each one of us is loved by God the Father, and our thought adjusters, and God the Father of the whole universe loves each one of us. Not only that, but our planet is loved and cherished. And they're saying just as much as if it had never rebelled. We're not penalized because of the rebellion. Our planet is not abandoned or cast aside because of the rebellion. They're saying our planet is loved and cherished just as much as it would be if there was no rebellion. And they're saying, and even more so. So we don't have to feel bad about that.
对，那么并不因为这个地球就是星球被那个了，是一个背叛的星球而被我们凡人啊，就或者这个星球就被遗弃了，而是我们就实际上更被珍惜，更被爱，然后比那个没有背叛的星球甚至更深。
So we certainly have suffered. As a planet, we have suffered deeply because of the rebellion. That's true. As our own, through our own doing. But the celestial government, the celestial beings in all of the universe, even the super universe, have never penalized us. They have never acted any differently or any less lovingly or cared for us any less because of it.
那就作为一个星球蒙受了损失，但是呢，灵界存有包括这个超级宇宙，那从来没有给我们少一点爱。
If anything, they care for us even more.
对，它实际上给我们更多的爱护。
And of course, we know we're very, very lucky and blessed planet because we're the only planet in the entire universe of Nebadon where our sovereign lived here among us as a man. So Jesus has a very, very special place in his heart for our little planet because he lived here. He lived a life as a man here, and he's promised to come back.
那么我们更知道那个我们是非常幸运的，因为这个整个的那8段，这么多的可居住的行星，那么我们的主权者就是我们的基督，他选择在这里做他的一次赠予，他作为一个凡人在这里生活过，并且他还会再回来。
And I believe this whole spiritual awakening that's happening in our planet, you could think of it as in a way, where as a planet, we are preparing for the return of Jesus because he's not going to come back. The Urantia book says a lot of Christians think he's going to come back any day, but the Urantia book says he's not going to come back until we're settled in light and life. That means we're completely spiritualized. But I think that we're beginning now, and it's going to happen faster than we think. I don't think it's going to take 10,000 years. I think it's once the momentum gets going, I think it's going to happen faster than we think. Now you might think, well, what does that mean? Does it mean 10 days, 10 months? No, but I don't think it's going to take 10,000 years. I think there's going to be like what they call a snowball effect, where the momentum is just going to keep building until it's like infectious, until people get on board, they get excited by what's happening, the changes that are happening, the transformation will just affect more and more people, and more people will get on board. That's what I think. Now, I don't know how many hundreds of years it will take. I don't know, but I think it will happen. I think we'll be astounded at how much change starts happening soon.
对，那么耶稣基督呢，就是他什么时候会回来？然后那现在就是我们经历灵性觉醒的时期，实际上我们的星球正在做准备，迎接他的回来。他什么时候回来呢？就当我们的星球锚定在生命和光当中，他就会回来。那么这有多久呢？是当然不会像10天啊、10个月这么快，但是呢，就像一个雪球，它既然开始滚起来，那么它就会变得越来越大。那么在这个转变已经开始了，那么就一定就是 相当于就在地平线上一样。那么需要几百年还是怎么样？但是一定是在有地平线上。
So I just turned 69 in September 1st. I just turned 69, and I was born in 1955, which is the year the Urantia book was published.
今年就69岁，那么我是那个《玉兰夏之书》出版的那一年出生的。
And what I've seen, I'm saying these things because what I have seen in my lifetime, the changes that I've witnessed are truly astounding. I would never have imagined these kinds of changes in the society, in the culture, from just radical changes.
那个我是就是一生当中就是看到这个巨大的变化，是文化呀、社会呀各个层面，就是非常非常巨大的、令人惊异的变化。
In one short lifetime, to see society undergo these changes is just mind-blowing.
对，我的短短的一生当中经历这么大的变化，实际上真的是非常的让人的，对，脑袋都要被吹掉了。
But it gives me great hope.
也给我很大的希望。
Now, Ricky, do you know when this Carolyn Kendall video was published? Do you know what year it came out?
Definitely before the Urantia book published.
Oh,
I'm not
yeah.
sure.
Well, yeah, but she talks about that. But I don't think she made the video then. I think she made the video much later.
Yeah. Let me see. I have it. 8 years ago.
Oh, even more recently. I think she died since then. I'm pretty sure she did.
Yeah.
And now, just so that people know, Carolyn Kendall was a woman who was in the original forum in Chicago. And that's when the Urantia book was being published. They had a forum of people who were given the papers before it was made into a book, and they got to review every paper and ask questions and get clarification. And then they would get an edited version. And that went on for maybe 20 years or more before the book was finally published. And she was in this original group, which was put together by a man named William Sadler. So Carolyn Kendall was a member of this original forum. I mean, there were many members over the years because it lasted for I think it was about 20 years. I'm not sure, 10, 20 years, a long time. So that's who she is. And she made this video 8 years ago.
对，can we take a break? Can we take a break? I need a 5 minutes break.
Sure.
Yeah, and then I'm going to share the video from the
Okay.
YouTube. We can start it. Yeah. OK. 那我们现在先分钟的休息，我有点急事要处理一下，一会儿再回来。
Okay.
Greetings, everyone. I'm happy to be speaking to all of you attending the study group symposium. My name is Carolyn Kendall, and I'm one of the surviving members of the forum.
Are you able to hear it?
Greetings, everyone. I'm happy to be speaking to all of you attending the study group symposium. My name is Carolyn Kendall, and I'm one of the surviving members of the forum. The forum was the group that studied the evolving Urantia papers for 30 years before the papers were published as the Urantia Book. I was a member of the last 5 years of the forum, and I was invited by Gaetan Charlan to provide some background information about the publication mandate. Many readers ask about the purpose of the publication mandate and whether it was a genuine communication from the same planetary overseers who provided the revelation. They also ask whether it is still timely. I assure you that all of the pre-papers material, as well as the messages that came after the papers were complete, were commissioned and communicated by the same beings as the Urantia papers. They came in the same voices or the same writing and by the same techniques as the papers themselves. First, the correct title of the so-called publication mandate was The Timing of the Urantia Book, and the subtitle was Introduction to the Publication Mandate. The attached order authorizing publication was...
Are you able to hear it well?
Yes, I hear very well.
Yeah. So can you summarize what she said in this?
Sure.
Okay.
It's very interesting because she's saying that a lot of people ask about this publication mandate that she's going to tell us about. And she's saying the original name of it was called The Timing of the Urantia Book. And then the subheading was The Publication Mandate.
对，就是Caroline 提到这个，就这一篇的它的题目哈，正题就是阅览下之书的时机，就是它的出版时机吧。然后副标题是出版 mandate publication mandate 出版命令。
She says that the forum, I said about 20 years, but she said the forum existed, the original Urantia forum group of people who received the papers before it was published. The original forum existed for 30 years. And she said she was a member for the last 5 years of that time.
对，就是在那个原来的那个论坛，就是形成阅览下之书最起初那个论坛，它存在了30多年。这个论坛呢，就是这 Caroline 呢参与了后5年的这个工作。
She says that a lot of people, she says she's making this video because she was asked to do it.
对，他给这一篇说明是因为他被人请求要给出这样的说明。
Because there have been a lot of questions about this publication mandate.
对，因为他是那个成员之一嘛，参与成员，所以他是被大家要求来给出这样的说明，关于这篇出版指令。
One thing people want to know is she sure that this was this mandate given to the forum members by the same beings who wrote the Urantia book? And she's saying absolutely yes, because it was transmitted in the same way the book was transmitted, through the same people in the exact same way. And they said the people who received it said it was the same people who wrote the book.
那么有一个问题，大家是有一个问题就是，那么给出这个出版指令的，是不是就是跟那个写这本书的是同样的人？那么同样的一笔作者，就是那个出这本书的作者，那么他的答案是很确实的，对，是这样的。对，因为他是通过同样的人、同样的方式给出来的信息，传导的信息。
Ricky, when you think about it, it makes sense. If you spend 30, 50 years writing a book, preparing a book, organizing a group of people to receive it and review it, you assemble 25 authors from around the universe, and they all come to Urantia to deliver this revelation. It does make sense that you would come back and tell them a little bit about how they should publish it.
那么对，那么就是非常可以理解的哈。如果是就是这一群人，他们花了30年、50年时间，然后呢，来这个接受、来总结那个灵界传导的信息，然后这个灵界传导的信息就是由25个作者来传导下来的。那么也是很可以理解，就是这些作者也很关心，就告诉这些接收的人，他们应该怎么样去用这些信息啊，来出版这些信息。
I'm sorry, that last thing was my comment. She didn't say that on the video.
这是他那个这样说的，不是这Caroline没有在这个里边说。
Okay, you can continue.
Fairly brief, as I recall. It granted permission to the Human Contact Commissioners to proceed with the final steps of publishing the Urantia Book. The Contact Commissioners could not just rush ahead and publish the papers anytime they wanted to. They had to wait for permission from the revelators. As it happened, formal approval came from a personality who arrived on Urantia on August 21st, 1951. He was a heretofore unknown Melchizedek son named Norsen. He was introduced as the new regent of the acting planetary prince. We know that the planetary prince of Urantia is Christ Michael, who achieved that title immediately after his baptism in January AD 26. He replaced Caligastia, who had joined in the Lucifer Rebellion. Michael did not remain on Urantia to assume direction of the daily administration of our world. Macaventa Melchizedek was recently bestowed with the title of Vicegerent Planetary Prince. Although Macaventa has visited Urantia after his own bestowal many times in association with the Urantia revelation, he has not assumed direct management of the unseen beings who govern our world. We don't know how long Norsen will remain to direct the Urantia revelation, but as Bill Sadler said on the day that the message was read, we can't have two planetary princes. The previously unknown Melchizedek's son was accompanied by Macaventa Melchizedek and by Gabriel, the bright and morning star of Nebadon. He was introduced to the contact commissioners, and those visitors were present during the observance of Jesus' birthday on August 21st. They were invisible to human eyes. The Urantia papers had been in preparation since January 1925 and had evolved gradually through.
Yeah. Okay.
You think? Oh, yeah, that's right. So she's saying that
Northern.
no,
Oh.
she's saying that they weren't allowed to publish the book without permission.
Yes, and they have been waiting for that. And then August 21st, 1951, Northern came to get through.
So on August 21st, which is Jesus's birthday in 1951, Norson came to Urantia to give them a message about the publication. Now she said he was an heretofore unknown Melchizedek. They hadn't heard of him. He didn't help write the paper. He hadn't been, no one had heard of him before. So he came with Macaventa Melchizedek, who was the planetary prince at that time. And she says Macaventa Melchizedek had been here many times since he became the planetary prince. Okay, I'll let you translate.
这个 Northern 这个人物哈，他他在8月21日1951年，在耶稣的生日那天，就是相当于出现了。在谁的陪同下？马克温塔、莫基瑟德的陪同下出现了。那么马基瑟德，马蒂温塔，莫基瑟德呢，是这个地球的代理行星王子。对，那么我们的就是那一段里边讲那行星王子啊，实际上是我们的迈克尔基督，Yeah，他在公元26年，公元后26年，相当于就是他受洗的那个时候，就已经被赋予这样的一个称号，然后就是代替了卡里加夏，就是那个背叛的行星王子。
She's saying that Caligastia was still our planetary prince when Jesus came and lived here, and it wasn't until he was baptized by John the Baptist in the River Jordan.
Yeah.
At that moment, he became planetary prince and replaced Caligastia.
对，那就是耶稣他是在那个施洗者约翰给他施洗之后，才正式的代替了卡里加夏，成为我们的行星王子。
And that was 26 AD.
对，发生在公元后26年。
So then, but Jesus appointed Macaventa Melchizedek, and that's the same person who came and lived here 100 years with Abraham. Same guy. He appointed him to be his vicegerent planetary prince, because Jesus, even though he is the prince, he appointed Macaventa to do the job for him. Yeah.
那么这个耶稣基督呢，他是指认那个马基温塔莫基瑟德作为这个代理总督就那个他也就是同一个人，他那时候来到地上，然后陪着亚伯拉罕，只教导他100年，同一个人。
Now she says there was a contact commission, so there wasn't just the forum of people for 30 years who read the papers before it was published. There was also a contact commission. That's a very small group of people that included William Sadler. And they were the people, see, it's called contact commission because they were the people in contact with the authors of the Urantia book, the celestial beings?
接触委员会呢，就是就是威廉萨德勒领导的那个，他们是直接跟这个作者，跟这个启示录的作者打交道的，他们跟他工作了，跟这个作者工作了30多年，来传导这个预言下之书。
So they're saying on August 21st, 1951, this is 4 years before the book was published, when they were celebrating Jesus's birthday, because Jesus was actually born on August 21st. The Contact Commission, they were celebrating Jesus's birthday, and Macaventa Melchizedek came to their group to speak to them with Norson, this other Melchizedek. But they were invisible to human eyes, but they had some way of communicating, but they were not visible to human eyes.
那么就是在8月21日，1951年，那么4年，就是相当于这个《预言下之书》出版的4年之前，那么他们正在那个就是接触委员会在庆祝那个耶稣的生日，那么这时候。马基温达麦基舍德就是来到这个群组当中，然后跟那个 Norton 一起。那么当然他们是不可见的，对我们凡人是不可见的。
And at that time, Norson was put in charge of the publication of the Urantia Book.
那个时候呢 ，Norton 被指派来负责《预言下之书》的出版。
Now, I think he was appointed temporary planetary prince also because she said that William Sadler said, well, there can't be 2 planetary princes. So you might want to rewind just a little bit so I can get that straight. If he was appointed, I think they're going to say more about that. But you might rewind just a little so I can see if it says he was appointed planetary prince also.
对，我们也继续往前 play。那么就是这个 Norton 是不是就是被阿基温塔温瑟德任命为暂时的、临时的这个行星王子？那么我们因为这个威廉萨德勒说，我们不能同时有2个行星王子，我要继续听他怎么解释。OK。
2 series until 1935.
Much of the effort between 1925
and 1941 been in preparation since January 1925 and had evolved gradually through 2 series until 1935. Much of the effort between 1925 and 1941 was consumed with clarification of the text with the revelators and with retyping, proofreading, and making approved corrections of the text. There was a wait of several years because of World War II and the Korean War, as well as a succession of further threats to the security and peace of the world. The revelators granted permission in June 1941 to begin setting type. The printer of choice was R.R. Donnelly and Sons of Chicago, Illinois. Each part of the book was set in type as funds became available. The revelators waited until the forum had completed a full reading of Part 4 in their Sunday meetings before authorizing typesetting of Part 4. The last paper of Part 4 of the Jesus Papers was read January 8, 1948. Part 4 was set in type by June 1950. 3 months after his August 1951 arrival, Norson sent a communication to the Contact Commission on November 22, 1951. He had appointed a Supreme Court of Urantia consisting of the heads of the various orders of beings functioning on the planet. He also advised that the affairs of the Contact Commission would be turned over to Urantia Foundation on February the 11th, 1954. In August 1952, he sent another communication which stated, "I, and I alone, shall direct the publication of the Urantia Book." And he said, "If I do not provide such information on or before January 1st, 1955, then the trustees of Urantia Foundation should proceed with plans for publication in accordance with their own judgment. I reserve the right to intervene at any time." When asked why they had not heard from him for an entire year, he responded that he had been, quote, "working to prevent World War III," end of quote.
So Norson told them, okay, so they say that the Urantia papers began in 1925, and it took 30 years, but then they started putting it into print. What I think it was 1951, around that same time that he came, I'm not sure, but it was put into print at least 4 years before it was actually published. Now, Norson explained that he and he alone was going to give him directions for publishing. And he contacted them again a year later in 1952. And they said, "Why haven't we heard from you for a whole year?" And he said, "I've been busy trying to prevent World War III."
我听着好像是1951年11月21日，那个萨德勒又跟他们又接触来着，不是，就是那个 Norson 大概又吐过来传导，然后说是要把那个接触委员会要改成那个预染下基金会，然后1954年2月11日呢，又透过来说，就是他直接来负责预染下之书的出版。然后呢，说是如果是他1年之内没有再回来，那么就是信托，那相当于大家就可以按自己的判断来出版这本书。然后中间有1年他大概好像没露面，后来他在露面的时候，他解释说，他是在积极的在预防第3次世界大战的爆发。
So she also said that, so that's 30 years from 1925 when it began to 1955 when it was published. That is 30 years. So she also says that there was a pause in the writing of the Urantia book for a few years in the middle of World War II.
对，从1925到1955 30年嘛，那中间呢就是传导啊、排版啊，就是争取这个印书过程当中有几次的停顿呢，就是好像是因为第2次世界大战和朝鲜战争大概影响了一部分进度。
So apparently they had formed the Urantia Foundation. By the time Norson came, they already had the Urantia Foundation formed, because he said, if I don't give you, in 1952, he said, if I don't give you any more instructions by 1955, you can go ahead and publish the book and let the Urantia Foundation be in charge.
对，no, she actually appeared, according to my notes, February 11th, 1954, telling people that he alone shall direct publication of Urantia book.
Yeah, he said, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
so he came back in 1954 then. He
Yeah.
came back a year later in 1952. And that's when they said, why haven't we heard from you for a year? And he said, I've been busy preventing World War III. So then he came back in 1954 and he said, I alone am in charge, am in charge of the publication directions. But if you don't hear from me before 1955, then let the Urantia Foundation make their own choices.
对，他就是54年，他就说，如果是我1年之后哈没有回来，那么就原下基金会就可以决定来出版这本书。Okay.
Norson's third message was the publication mandate and the timing of the Urantia book, which was read to the forum on September 21st, 1952. This date was confirmed by a notation in a private diary.
Okay, so he delivered the mandate when he had come back later, a year later in 1952. He delivered this mandate that we're about to hear, and she says it's confirmed because someone had made a note of it in their private diary. So she knows that that's exactly when the date was that this mandate was given to us.
就是相当于 Norson 第3个信息哈，第3次来就是相当于发布了这个出版指令，那么是9月21日1952年。那天这个日期呢就是有人他私人的日记当中记载了这个日期，所以得到了一个肯定，确认是这个日期。
I heard the mandate and the eloquent introduction read to the forum by Bill Sadler. Bill expressed the personal opinion that they probably would not hear anything further from our friends, as he put it, saying, I guess we are on our own from now on. The forum members had been thinking in terms of large assemblies of groups after publication. But when one man in the audience heard that we were to establish thousands of small study groups, his comment was, now they tell us. Everyone.
然后好像是不是那一次之后呢 ，Bill 就跟那个人群宣布说，有可能我们再也不会从我们的朋友那儿再听到什么消息了，我们就是从现在开始就得靠我们自己了。
Ricky, could you rewind? I want to hear that that little part again. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Publication mandate and the timing of the Urantia book, which was read to the forum on September 21st, 1952. This date was confirmed by a notation in a private diary. I heard the mandate and the eloquent introduction read to the forum by Bill Sadler. Bill expressed the personal opinion that they probably would not hear anything further from our friends, as he put it, saying, "I guess we are on our own from now on." The forum members had been thinking in terms of large assemblies of groups after publication. But when one man in the audience heard that we were to establish thousands of small study groups, his comment was, "Now they tell us." Everyone else in the forum was quite excited to know that the book would soon be available to them to read at home. There was some discussion as to what is meant by the statement in the introduction to the mandate. Quote, "The book belongs to the era immediately to follow the conclusion of the present ideological struggle." End of quote. Some felt he was speaking of communism. Others felt he was talking about some other political upheaval, while yet another person believed that the world would not be ready until the Lucifer Rebellion had been adjudicated and the circuits were opened. No.
Okay, so he delivered the mandate to the Contact Commission in September 21st, 1952. Then Bill Sadler read it to the group assembled, the whole forum assembled, and Bill Sadler read it to them. And he said, in his own opinion, it wasn't in the mandate, but he said in his own opinion, he thought that was the last they would hear from the revelators, the celestial beings who wrote the Revelation, the Urantia book. He said, from now on, I think we're on our own.
对，那么对我刚才已经说了，贝尔萨德勒他就是大概他的直觉嘛，告诉他大概这个出版指令完了之后，大概就从那些的启示者那里就再也不会再听到新的消息了，这可能是最后一条了。
Now, the publication mandate was telling them about the publication, but the people were excited because they realized that after almost 30 years that the book was finally almost ready to be published, so they would soon have the book to read themselves, so they were excited about that.
对，那么接触委员会的成员都非常的兴奋，因为这本书终于出版在即，然后他们就可以在家里边读这本书了。
Now this part's really interesting. What some people had assumed, never been told, but they had assumed that there was going to be huge gatherings and meetings and conventions about the Urantia book following the publication. And of course, well, this is my note, Heidi speaking. Of course, they probably thought they would be very high and exalted beings because they would be in charge of the whole thing. That's my guess.
那当然了，其中有一些人呢，他们就认为，哇，这本书出来之后呢，就会有很大的人群的聚集啊，然后大型的会议呀，然后来传播这样的信息啊。当然，他们也想着，哎，他们也许就是那些领头的，可以当这些领头的。
So some of those people who made that assumption were very disappointed when they heard in the publication mandate, when they heard that they were supposed to start thousands of small study groups around the world when the book was published, because they never expected that they would be told to do it that way.
相反呢，这个出版指令当中呢，却是说，让人们就是形成成千上万的这个小型的学习小组啊，而不是大型的聚会，就是形成一些小型的学习小组。
And yeah. And one guy said, oh, now they tell us, because he was thinking, you know, all this time I've been looking forward to these big conventions and these big assemblies. Now I find out it's just going to be a bunch of little study groups. So he says, now they tell us. So he's making a joke, kind of like, I wish they had told us this sooner, so he hadn't had all these expectations.
这可能就是一个他原来期望有大的聚会的那么一个弟兄，他就说啊，现在他们告诉我们了，对，就是他就是跟他原来的设想不同，他可能希望那些的启示者也许早一点会告诉他们是这样子的，只是一些小的学习小组，而不是大的聚会。
But from the point of view of the revelators, they could say, why should we tell you sooner? We never told you there would be large assemblies. We never told you there would be these big fancy gatherings and you would be so important. That was all in your imagination.
他就说，也许如果我是那个启示者，我会说，为什么早一点告诉你？为什么你会自己在那儿设想的？有那么多那么些很光鲜的那些的大会，然后你呢成为里边的重要人物，这是你自己想的。
That's my own comment.
这是海蒂自己的这个评论，就是针对人有一些不切实际的一些设想。
And this study group, our little humble little study group, is exactly what they said we should do in the mandate. And this is a very important study group because we're one of the very first, not the only one, but one of the very first Chinese study groups on Urantia.
对，就是我们的小的谦卑的学习小组，相当于就是依照这个出版指令里边提到的一个小的学习小组之一，但是又是非常重要的，因为就是我们华语世界里边的头几个学习小组之一。
Ricky, have they published the book in Chinese yet? Have they actually published it yet?
No, but they made the translation available online at the Urantia Foundation already. So the people book basically can go there and read the Chinese translated version, but it's not formally published yet.
Okay, so for the record, right now in the year 2024, the book has only recently been translated into Chinese and it's only available online. It took all this time. That's almost 75 years for these people to make a Chinese translation. And it is said, I don't know, I don't read Chinese. It is said that the translation isn't necessarily very good.
We are going
some people say.
对，那么就是出版了这本书，出版了75年了，然后才有这个中译本，现在在网上能够读到。
And this is my own comment, but personally, I find that inexcusable that they waited 75 years to make a translation into a language spoken by more people than any other language on earth.
他说其实这个是很不能原谅的，因为这个地球上用的最多的人群最多的就是华语嘛，因为我们人口大国。但是呢又等了75年，这本书才对华语世界能够读到，这个是不可原谅的。
Maybe they were too busy. Maybe the foundation was a little bit too busy making large assemblies and large gatherings than they were focusing on little small study groups around the world. Maybe, just my opinion.
他们也许可能更注重大的聚会啊，然后忽略小的学习小组的，新建啊。Yeah, and Heidi, it also mentioned that this book is only to be available after the current ideological struggle ended. So that may be why, because she remember we are still having this big struggle. It's not ended yet. That might be why it delayed for this long time. Actually, when we are ready, this the availability in our language maybe just on time.
Well, everything happens the way it's supposed to, but I'm not going to give the humans credit for knowing that. But it is very important that then she said that Norson said, this book is not for this era. It's for the next era. It's being published now, but it's really for the next era after the current ideological struggle is culminated, has been resolved. So then she said, a lot of people were wondering, what is this ideological struggle he's talking about? Is it communism? Is it they weren't sure, but I think we're beginning to figure it out now.
Yeah. 那么 Norson 呢，他指出，就是现在的意识形态的斗争，冲突结束之后，就是相当于人类的下一个纪元，然后这本书才会广传开来呢，就是，Caroline 在里边说，有可能是不是共产主义意识形态的结束？那么现在实际上，我们意识到它有更深的、更多的、更广泛的一个意识形态的争斗在人类这个地球的人类当中。
But that also explains why they were saying start thousands of little study groups around the world. They're not telling them to have large assemblies and conventions, and because they're not trying to create a book for all people, to a new religion for the world. They're saying the world isn't ready for this book yet. Just start planting the seeds, get it out there, make it available to those few people around the world, million, however many, who are ready. Make it available to them, let people start studying it. It's not going to catch on yet. The wider public is not ready for this book yet. That's what he said.
也是因为那个，就是实际上世界并没有准备好接受这本书，那么实际上小的学习小组就相当于慢慢的播种那个种子，先让准备好的人能够有机会读到。
I mean, all he said was this book is for the next era after the current ideological age is resolved. That's what he said. I'm saying, my interpretation is that the world isn't ready for this book yet. It's for the next era after the ideological struggle. And now I believe 75 years later, I think this ideological struggle is now coming to a head where it's peaking and it's finally ending and we're winning.
对，那么相当于，就是在75年之后呢，相当于这个意识形态方面的这种争执、这种的冲突达到了顶峰，那么就是也慢慢的人类就是要进入下一个时代，那么实际上这本书也慢慢的就是准备好为下一个时代的，那么也慢慢的会被进入大众的视野。
And my personal belief, Heidi's, not Carolyn's, not Norson's, is that it's an ideological struggle between materialism and spiritualism, between good and evil, between God consciousness and atheism.
那么我自己认为，我的个人信念认为，这个是一个征战，是物质主义和精神，灵性主义的征战，然后善和恶的一个征战，和信神的和无神论者的征战。
Okay, let's hear more.
Answers were provided. The mandate was read again to the forum on April 4th, 1955. Copies of this statement was placed in each of the Urantia Brotherhood Departmental Committee secretaries' notebooks, and copies were also given to various leaders. It was read to many individuals as they rose to leadership positions in the years after publication, and nothing further was received in either writing or orally.
对，他就是说，1955年4月4号，这个又重新的被读出来，然后好像分发了很多的拷贝给那些的，就是读书小组的领导人物啊之类的。然后下面大概就是正文了，《月染下之书》的时机和出版指令。
So I just want to, okay, go ahead. Are you done?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay, I just want to make sure you said, or emphasize, should I say that that Norson gave the contact committee the mandate in 1952, and William Sadler read it to the group, but then he read it again to the group in 1955, the year it was published.
对，因为他52年给出的这个指令，然后54年呢，就是由萨德勒52年，然后55年就是又被萨德勒又再读一遍给那个接触委员会，那么就那一年55年就是出版的年，《月染下之书》的出版年。
Now this is very important because there are people, now this is very important because there are people who are involved in the Urantia Foundation and are making videos, etc., who say this publication, this mandate is not real. It didn't happen. They don't believe Carolyn Kendall. So this part's very important. Their copies of the mandate were given to forum members, and copies were given to the secretaries of the leaders of the Brotherhood. Now, at this time there was a Urantia Foundation and a Urantia Brotherhood, and both organizations were started because the authors of the Urantia book told them to start these two foundations, a Brotherhood and a foundation. The foundation was supposed to be in charge of mainly of publishing the book, and the Brotherhood was supposed to be in charge of disseminating the book, starting the study groups, being a central clearinghouse for information about the book, and for fostering study groups. That's how it was supposed to be. So I should let you translate that.
那个对，这个传导 Norton 是1951年，相当于传导的发布的这个信息，1952年，萨德勒给大家读出来的，然后1955年又再读一遍。那么实际上，这个有2个机构跟月染下之书是相连的，一个是基金会，一个是兄弟会。那么基金会是用来，主要是来负责这本书的翻译，然后兄弟会呢是负责来传播这个信息，传播这个被翻译的那个给世界各个语种的人，它是这样的一个分工。Yeah.
So the secretaries had copies of this mandate, and through the years, we don't know how many years, but through the years, it was read to people as they became leaders of the brotherhood and the foundation. This mandate was read to them, or they were given copies, or it was read to them. That's important because it was considered important in those times.
对，这个秘书处就相当于就给这些的机构的领导者们那个拷贝，让他们知道这个出版指令。
So she has the dates. She has, she knows all. This is factual. For people to say this isn't true, it's nonsense. They have no basis for. She's not making. It's clear. I think it's very clear that she's not making this up.
对，因为这基金会有一些人大概怀疑它的真实性，那么相当于Caroline在这里边就是反驳这些，就是他是完全的认为这个出版指令就是从这个提示者来的。
Okay.
Yeah.
Timing of the Urantia Book. We regard the Urantia Book as a feature of the progressive evolution of human society. It is not germane to the spectacular episodes of epical revolution, even though it may apparently be timed to appear in the wake of one such revolution in human society. The book belongs to the era immediately to follow the conclusion of the present ideological struggle. That will be the day when men will be willing to seek truth and righteousness. When the chaos of the present confusion has passed, it will be more readily possible to formulate the cosmos of a new and improved era of human relationships. And it is for this better order of affairs on earth that the book has been made ready. But the publication of
这一段是说，我是参照的是 Eric 给我的这个译文来读一遍。我们将预染下之书视为人类社会渐进性演化的一个特征，它与划时代革命的壮丽事件并无密切关系，即使它似乎被安排在人类社会一次如此的革命之后出现。这本书属于紧随着当前意识形态之争结束过后的时代，那将是人们愿意寻求真理和正义的时刻。当目前困惑的混乱局面过去之后，将更容易制定出一个崭新且改善之人类关系时代的完整体系。而正是为了地球上这更好的秩序，此书已完成准备。
The book has not been postponed to that possibly somewhat remote date. An early publication of the book has been provided so that it may be in hand for the training of leaders and teachers. Its present is also required to engage the attention of persons of means who may be thus led to provide funds for translations into other languages.
这一段是说，但是此书的出版并未延迟到那可能稍远的日期。此书的提前出版是为了使其能被用于领导者与教师们的培训，而也需要它的存在来吸引那些具备财力的人的注意，从而可能引导他们提供资金，用于翻译成其他语言。Heidi, since I have the translation of this part, so I don't need your further explanation. So I just read the Chinese translation without.
You who have dedicated your lives to the service of the book and the brotherhood can little realize the import of your doings. You will doubtless live and die without fully realizing you are participating in the birth of a new age of religion on this world.
你们这些毕生致力于为玉染下之书和玉染下兄弟会服务的人们，很难意识到你们所做事情的重要性。你们无疑的将经历生死，而没有完全意识到你们正在参与这个世界上一个崭新宗教时代的诞生。
The future is not open to your mortal comprehension, but you will do well to diligently study the order, plan, and methods of progression as they were enacted in the earth life of Michael when the Word was made flesh. You are becoming actors in an ensuing episode when the Word is made book. Great is the difference in these dispensations of religion, but many are the lessons which can be learned from a study of the former age.
未来对你们凡人的理解来说是未敞开的，但你们应当勤奋地研究迈克尔在地球生活中所实行之进展的秩序、计划和方法。当然，道成肉身，而当道成书时，你们正在成为一个接踵而至时期中的参与者。这些宗教的时期存有很大的不同，但是从对前一个时代的研究中可以学到许多教训。
You must again study the times of Jesus on earth. You must carefully take note of how the kingdom of heaven was inaugurated in the world. Did it evolve slowly and unfold naturally, or did it come with a sudden show of force and with spectacular exhibition of power? Was it evolutionary or revolutionary?
你们必须再次研究耶稣在地球上的时代。你们必须仔细记录天国如何在世界上开创。它是缓慢演化并自然展开的，还是它伴随着突然的力量显示和壮观的全能展现而来？它是进化性的还是革命性的？
You must learn to possess your souls in patience. You are in association with a revelation of truth, which is a part of the natural evolution of religion on this world. Over rapid growth would be suicidal. The book is being given to those who are ready for it long before the day of its worldwide mission. Thousands of study groups must be brought into existence, and the book must be translated into many tongues. Thus will the book be in readiness when the battle for men's liberty is finally won, and the world is once more made safe for the religion of Jesus and the freedom of mankind.
你们必须学会耐心地掌握你们的灵魂，你们与一个真理的启示相关联。此启示是这个世界上宗教自然进化的一部分。过度快速的成长将是自我毁灭。这本书正被提供给那些准备好接受它的人，而这远远早于此书革命性、全球性使命之日到来以前。成千上万的读书会必须建立，并且必须将此书翻译成多种语言。由此，当人类为自由而战，最终获胜，而世界再次成为耶稣的宗教和人类的自由安全之地时，这本书将准备就绪。Wonderful.
Is that it? Is that the end?
Yes. Yeah. See? The end.
Okay. Wow, I'm so glad we watched that again. I love it so much.
Yes, it is. I love the message. I think this is just written for us in this era.
I think, Ricky, I think that like every 6 months we should just watch this.
他说我们应该每6个月就来重温一遍。
You know, because
Yeah.
it's such a great reminder of what we're doing.
就是提醒我们正在做的事情。Yeah, it is.
And you know, I never saw this mandate until, you know, what, a year ago? When did we first watch it?
Last year.
Yeah, that was the first time I saw it. But before that, I always knew this. And I never understood why all these people were running out, trying so hard to spread the word and have conventions. And I always felt like it was for future age and that we were just supposed to slowly, quietly study it and learn it and spread it to the few people who wanted to hear it. Not many people want to hear this book.
他说我这个在1年前才发现这个，但是之前其实我是一直知道这个的存在，并且我非常非常也赞同这个书，不是这个指令当中他的那个观点，就是说不是说现在就去大张旗鼓的宣扬这本书，而是很静悄悄的，就是跟那个有缘人去分享，然后因为这个书并不是很多人会喜欢和接纳的，在目前。
But in the future, many, I believe this will be like the way the Bible is today. I think that's what the Urantia book will be in the future. I think it will appeal to people of all different religions because it's so universal. I think this is going to be for a long time to come. I think this will be the most important book on the planet.
对，那就将来你看，就是说圣经的普及程度，那么将来这本书，它的普及程度也应该类似。那么，因为这本书对不同的宗教背景的人都是非常有吸引力的，很长时间都会保持它的吸引力。
Sorry. I hear leaders all the time, you know, political leaders, religious leaders, spiritual leaders, you know, the top people's minds, and they're speculating. They're on YouTube, they're on videos, they're speculating about this, that, they're guessing about alien life, future life, what happens after death, the life of Jesus, on and on and on. And I just say, I leave comments all the time. I'm saying, you could just read the Urantia book. It answers all your questions.
对，我经常听那些政治人物啊、宗教人物啊，在网上在那儿猜测呀，什么外星人呐、什么未来的生命啊。我经常在底下留言，就说你们去读《月染下之书》吧。
And before Ricky, I'm sure you have to go. It's almost 10:30, but I just want to say to the listeners out there that most of the people, well, no, I'd say all of them, everyone I've ever heard who debunks, discredits the Urantia book online, makes videos and writes about how wrong it is and how it's fake and how it's a scam, and they always get the information in the book incorrect. It's so clear that they haven't read the book or they've just read a few little pieces of it. It's so clear that they have no idea what they're talking about.
经常有一些人啊，试图来就是那个否认它的可信度，然后造一些的视频说啊，这是假的，这个是骗人的。这个他们往往这些人根本就没有读过《月染下之书》，他们根本不知道他们在讲什么。
They always say that the Urantia book says things that it doesn't say. They always misinterpret it. It's just so clear from within a few minutes that they haven't really read, let alone understood the book. But they haven't even read it. They don't understand it, but they haven't even read it.
对，那么他们往往就开始说不久，就发现他们就是给的信息根本就不是《月亮下之书》当中讲的，他们往往曲解那些信息。
Anyway, if people didn't debunk it, if they didn't discredit it, if they didn't hate it, we would know it wasn't very worthwhile.
如果没有人出来在这儿损毁它，我们还不会知道这本书是多么有价值。那正是因为就相反的，就是正是因为有人试图来诋毁它，我们才更认识到这本书的价值所在。
It's always a very good sign when you speak the truth, you always have enemies.
当你说真理的时候，你一定会有敌人。Yeah.
Okay, I'm so glad we listened to that. Thanks
Yeah.
so much for suggesting that, Ricky.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, because I didn't record it well last time, so I hope this time I could successfully record it. That's
Yeah,
very
no, it was
important.
great. And maybe over time, maybe you can get a translation for the whole thing, and we can just, every 6 months or once a year, maybe on Jesus's birthday on August 21st, we should just play it again, and you can have a whole translation in Chinese.
Yeah, we have the whole paper's translation. I shared with the group already.
Oh, I thought you
Yeah.
just had the last part.
Yeah, the last part, not the whole
I see. You have the actual mandate.
mandate, but not the whole lecture
Yeah.
by Caroline.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. So yeah, maybe on Jesus's birthday we'll read it every
所以有
year.
可能我们在这个耶稣的生日那天，是不是也可以再读一遍这个？应该经常重温这个启示者对我们的殷切期望，是吧？
Do you think Norson's still here?
Not sure. I'm not sure. He already completed his mission on
Yeah.
helping this one published.
Yeah. He it's probably Machiaventimel because or could be one of the Council of 24, right? We were just reading about that.
他说那 Norton 你认为 Norton 是不是还在啊？我说我不知道啊。那就是有可能马基温党莫基瑟德在当政，或者是24人委员会当中的一个人在当政，不知道是不是他。Anyway, yeah,
Okay.
that's great. Thank you so much for
Okay.
Kind of clarify the timeline, how when this mandate is emerged from.
Yeah. I mean, I learned more
revealed.
about the whole timeline. Yeah, because I always am very fuzzy about all that. I forget that the book was started in 1925 and the forum was for 50. Wait, it was 40 years? Yeah, 40 years, yeah. So 25, 35, 45, 55, 25,
Yeah.
35, 45, 50, yeah, 40 years. Okay, well, I'll see you guys next
Okay.
week.
OK，下周见。谢谢安，赶快休息吧。
Have a great week.
OK, you too. Bye.
All right, bye-bye.